To step into a relationship is to cross the threshold of your own self and enter the psychic terrain of another. Yet not every bond sets you free. Some become snares, weaving together unconscious threads, repressed shadows, and unvoiced wounds. The question isn't just whether you love or are loved in return, but whether that love nurtures your journey toward wholeness or pulls your psyche back into chaos. When a relationship turns toxic, it often does so silently, creeping in over time. Jung didn't use the term toxicity as we do today, but he gave us tools to see its core through symbols, projections, complexes, and the soul's dark night. What follows isn't a list to check off, but a revelation. 7 hidden signs that you're in a relationship threatening to consume your true self. You start to feel emotionally unraveled, as though fragments of your life force are slipping away without cause. There's no visible scar, yet your vitality drains, your creativity fades, your inner voice grows faint. This is the first sign, the erosion of psychic energy. Jung noted that when libido psychic energy gets trapped, it turns toxic. A relationship that once felt alive may now seem like a crypt, and the soul, sensing this stagnation, begins to wilt. The root of this decay often lies in an unspoken pact to remain stuck. One or both partners, fearing their own inner wounds, project them onto the other, demanding compliance over authenticity. This marks the start of an inner death, cloaked as loyalty. Projection opens the next door to toxicity. When caught in unconscious projection, you're not truly connecting with the person in front of you. You're engaging with your own buried material, cast onto them like a film on a blank screen. Jung taught that we see others not as they are, but as we are. In toxic relationships, this creates a loop of mutual blindness. Each partner blames the other for flaws rooted deep in their own psyche: control, abandonment, inadequacy, or anger. The longer these projections linger, the less real the relationship feels. You may think you're loving a person, but you're loving your own illusion, your own wound. In that mirage, healing cannot take root. A third sign arises in silence, not the peaceful kind, but the fearful kind. You find yourself unable to voice your truth. The relationship becomes a cage of unexpressed needs, suppressed thoughts, and dread of being misjudged or punished. This often signals a power complex at play. In Jungian terms, a complex is a cluster of emotions and beliefs tied to past trauma. When a power complex rules a relationship, one partner dominates while the other yields. Communication ceases to be a bridge and becomes a battlefield. The psyche, fearing obliteration, retreats. The inner voice whispers, "Stay quiet, shrink, vanish," and so the true self is hushed, piece by piece, day after day. The fourth sign is persistent guilt or shame without clear reason. You're always apologizing, treading carefully, doubting your own reality. This is a psychic distortion where the soul's natural guidance gets warped. Jung might say your soul is held captive by another's shadow. In a toxic relationship, your partner may unconsciously project their own shadow, what they loathe or fear in themselves, onto you. If you're empathic, sensitive, or carry wounds from past rejection, you might accept this projection as fact. You start to believe you're flawed, the cause of strife, that your very being is defective. This is perilous, for when the ego merges with this projected shadow, the self splinters. You lose your inner guide, and with it, your autonomy. Next comes the fifth sign, endless repetition of the same conflict, unresolved. The fight is never about what it seems. The misplaced dish, the late reply, the overlooked errand, these are mere symptoms. The real struggle is archetypal. The wounded child seeking safety, the tyrant craving control, the savior chasing an unfixable wound. Toxic relationships loop through these patterns because neither partner dives into their inner world to face the pain's source. They demand the other change, unaware they're asking the other to bear their wound. Jung called this a failure of individuation. Without facing their own shadow, the cycle continues. The outer clash is only a reflection of an inner battle. The sixth sign surfaces in your dreams. Dreams never deceive. They are the unconscious speaking in images, symbols, and paradox. In a toxic relationship, your dreams may darken, filled with visions of confinement, rot, or pursuit. You might dream of sinking, being hunted, or losing your way. These aren't mere nightmares, they're the soul's cries. Jung taught that when the unconscious is troubled, it speaks louder in dreams. If your dreams grow heavy during a relationship, your psyche is signaling what your ego avoids. You may wake drained, not refreshed. This exhaustion comes from nightly wrestling with truths you fear to face in daylight. Finally, the seventh sign, the relationship pulls you from your purpose. This is the subtlest yet most devastating sign. Jung believed each person is called to a unique path of wholeness, which he termed individuation. This journey demands facing inner demons, embracing the shadow, and aligning with your inner voice. A toxic relationship derails this calling. You once had dreams of vision, a sense of destiny, but now they're buried under obligation, turmoil, and emotional exhaustion. You no longer know yourself. You ignore your intuition. Instead, you're consumed by the relationship, its demands, its dramas, its wounds. The soul's path is paused or abandoned, and in that loss, the self falls dormant. Yet within these seven signs lies the seed of awakening. Jung didn't call for blame or evasion. He urged us to plunge into the psyche's depths, confront our inner monsters, reclaim our projections, and become whole. Toxic relationships, though painful, act as mirrors. They reveal where we're still fractured, still unaware, still afraid. They're invitations not to fix the other, but to meet ourselves. If you're caught in such a bond, the question isn't just, should I stay or go, but an inner judgment already made. True healing isn't about swapping out the partner first. It's about facing the inner critic who says, "This is all you're worth." That voice must be overthrown. That verdict must be erased. Dreams, synchronicities, and emotional triggers guide this deeper work. A toxic relationship disrupts the soul's calm, and in that unrest, the unconscious speaks louder. You'll notice patterns, recurring numbers, déjà vu, repeated images in dreams, strange coincidences. These aren't chance, they're messages. Jung called them synchronicities, meaningful links between inner and outer worlds. If you dream nightly of a falling house, ask, what in my psyche is crumbling? If you keep seeing birds crash into glass, ask, what part of me seeks freedom but hits a wall? The unconscious doesn't preach, it murmurs. In toxic bonds, its whispers grow urgent, vivid, symbolic. Listen closely. There's also possession, not supernatural, but Jungian. When a complex takes hold, it can seize the ego. You say things you don't mean, feel emotions that aren't fully yours. You turn reactive, obsessive, paranoid, or numb. It's as if something else has taken over. That's a complex, a fragment of the psyche with its own will. In toxic relationships, these complexes collide like mythic titans. The wounded child clashes with the controlling parent. The spurned lover fights the cold skeptic. The partners become pawns in this archetypal drama. Neither you nor your partner are evil, but both may be gripped by unconscious forces that need light to dissolve. Freedom starts with discernment. You must untangle what's yours from what's theirs. This isn't aloofness, it's sacred clarity. What's your wound? What's theirs? What's your duty? What's projection? This demands solitude, not as a retreat, but as a space to weave yourself back together. You need psychic room to feel, to dream, to recall who you were before the entanglement. This might mean physical space. It always means inner space, the bravery to see clearly. Jung didn't offer ease, he offered meaning. Meaning arises not in comfort, but in facing what's real. The deeper work begins not when you cry, "They hurt me," but when you ask, "Why did I let the pain repeat? What is myself teaching me through this?" Jungian psychology isn't judgmental. It doesn't say loving someone toxic is wrong. It asks what in you draws this dynamic, what soul. Task remains undone. Thus, the toxic relationship becomes an initiation. It doesn't justify harm, but offers transformation. If you do the work, the bond that nearly broke you can forge you anew. Don't underestimate suffering's symbolic power. Pain in a toxic relationship isn't just emotional, it's alchemical. It doesn't aim to punish, but to reshape. Jungian thought sees the psyche as striving for wholeness, even using shadows to nudge the ego toward light. A toxic relationship is a psychic wake-up call, signaling neglect or denial of something vital. Maybe you traded authenticity for acceptance. Maybe you lost your animus or anima, your inner drive or receptivity. Maybe you've split into roles that keep you safe but not alive. The relationship becomes the outer arena for an inner war. The pain is real, but its purpose is symbolic, to rouse you. Don't be fooled by surface calm. Many toxic relationships aren't loud or chaotic. Some erode quietly, wearing down the spirit beneath pleasant routines. No overt fights don't equal love. Jung warned against confusing adaptation with growth. When you adapt too much to please or dodge abandonment, you betray the self. The self isn't the ego's idea of who you should be. It's your full being, conscious and unconscious, light and dark. Betray the self, and it will call you back with growing force, through anxiety, illness, or fading joy. These are the soul's alarms. In such bonds, the inner voice often falls first. You once trusted your instincts, knew your feelings. Now you waver, second, guess, check the other's reaction before speaking your truth. This marks manipulation, especially gaslighting. Gaslighting is a psychic assault, eroding your reality until it needs another's approval. In Jungian terms, it cuts the ego off from instinct, symbol, and inner wisdom. You defer to the other not from love but fear. When fear drives your choices, the self withdraws. To heal such wounds, you must reclaim your fragments in a sacred task. Jung called this individuation, becoming whole. It's not conventional healing. It's deeper, ancient, mysterious. Individuation seeks integration, not perfection. The aim isn't to avoid hurt, but to understand why you're drawn to pain and choose consciously, not compulsively. This involves active imagination, a conversation with the unconscious. Write to the silenced parts of yourself. Visualize the shadow that gripped you, talk to it, trace its roots, dream intentionally, asking your psyche to unveil the bond's meaning. These are rites of restoration. A turning point comes when you shift from "what's wrong with them" to "what in me needs finding." Here, the ego loosens its grip and opens to the self. Jung spoke of the ego-self axis, linking our conscious self to a wiser inner core. A toxic relationship often breaks this link, leaving the ego floundering. You chase approval, dread solitude, excuse harmful acts. But when the ego aligns with the self, a quieter voice speaks, not fear's clamor, but truth's whisper. You're not broken, you're unfolding. In this space, memory reshapes itself. You view the relationship anew, not just as pain, but as a symbolic guide. Maybe the partner who belittled you mirrored your inner critic. Maybe the one who left echoed an unresolved childhood wound. This isn't blame, it's meaning. Jung held that suffering, when given symbolic weight, becomes more than pain. It joins the soul's myth. Every myth demands a descent before rebirth. Every hero must first be lost. Resist rushing into new bonds. The loneliness after a toxic relationship isn't a gap to fill. It's sacred ground. It's the quiet where the soul speaks again. Solitude isn't lovelessness. It's freedom from possession. Alone, you meet the parts you buried to sustain the bond, the playful, the sensual, the dreamer, the fighter, the wise. These haven't vanished, they're hidden under adaptation's rubble. As you reclaim them, you feel alive, not in drama's highs, but in truth's steady pulse. In time, you'll love again, but differently, from abundance, not need, from clarity, not haze, from wholeness, not lack. This shows the toxic bond fulfilled its strange purpose. It shattered you, but also your mask. It broke the illusion, summoned your essence. In that sacred breaking, something ancient was reborn. A moment comes after the storm when silence feels fresh, not suppression or fear, but spaciousness. The toxic dynamics noise, decoding moods, defending worth, dodging emotional traps, has stopped. That energy is yours again. In this quiet, the self speaks, maybe not in words, but in feelings, images, subtle knowing. This is the soul emerging from captivity, the return of the divine inner center, once overshadowed by relational projections. The pain lingers but is now held in understanding. Like nature, the psyche has seasons. A toxic relationship is a psychic winter. Harsh, bleak, but fertile. Beneath the ice, roots grow unseen. This is suffering's paradox. It fosters transformation. Jung didn't urge seeking pain, but listening when it comes. The soul in winter hints at spring. When the ego hears rather than fights, the thaw begins. Individuation after a toxic bond isn't a straight path. You'll face grief, yearning, doubt. You may dream of your partner, sense their psychic echo, even consider returning, not because the bond was whole, but because emptiness feels strange. This isn't weakness, it's memory, etched in body and soul. But you have tools now, you know a soul, call from a trauma, echo. You've tasted illusion's flavor, seen the mask on both. When the old pull tugs, you don't follow blindly. You pause, reflect, ask, what in me still seeks what harmed me? This leads inward, not to shame, but to wholeness. Every toxic bond touches a wound older than itself, a parent's rejection, a cultural voice saying you're not enough, a fear of loss from your earliest days. The relationship triggers, not creates, the pain. To heal fully, enter the wound with reverence, not blame. Trace its shape, feel its sting, speak to the part of you it shaped. As you do, the wound shifts from pain to power. In Jung's archetypal terms, this is the move from victim to alchemist. The broken become the transformers. You bear the scar, but it no longer defines you. It reminds you. You've walked through fire and found meaning, shed false selves, uncovered essence, seen darkness, chosen light. From here, new relationships bloom, not just romantic, but deep connections, friendships, creative partnerships, ties to your body, dreams, spirit. They're different because you are. You enter from fullness, not lack. You seek meeting, not rescue. When someone demands you shrink or betray your truth, you feel it instantly. Your once broken compass now holds true. You honor it. You spot toxicity's early signs, not as dangers but guides. You trust your body, your dreams, your unease. You don't explain away or excuse. You notice. In that noticing, you're free. Freedom isn't always leaving. Sometimes it's seeing clearly. Clear sight breaks the spell. In time, you may feel gratitude, not for the pain, but for its revelations. The relationship wasn't a detour, it was your path. It showed where you slept, where you gave away power, where you mistook sacrifice for love. It woke you, not gently, but through contrast. You wouldn't choose it again, but you don't regret it. It was your teacher, you were its student, that chapters closed, the lessons learned, a new archetype rises in you. Not the wounded child, the forsaken lover, the martyr, or the savior, but the sovereign. The one who owns themselves, the one who walks clearly, the one who honors the self above all, not in selfishness, but sacred alignment. When you're true to yourself, every bond you form grows truer. You no longer ask others for what you haven't given yourself. You don't seek chaos to feel alive. You are alive, you are whole. This is where suffering leads. Wholeness, not perfection, not fleeting joy, but authenticity, the fire of knowing who you are and aren't. Here, the soul breathes, the psyche hums, life shifts from dodging pain to embracing truth. Truth, as Jung knew, is liberation's only road. If you're caught in a toxic bond or rising from its embers, take heart. You're not lost, you're in initiation, you're not broken, you're breaking open. The soul is claiming its voice. The self is stepping into place. The love you sought outside now rises within, not as a crutch, but a source, a stream, a spark, a guide. Let pain guide you inward, let patterns teach, let the other's mirror show you yourself, not to trap you in reflection, but to free you into embodiment, truth, and love that frees, not binds. If you falter, if the old tug returns, or guilt echoes, or twisted warmth lures, return to your core. Return to your dreams, return to the self that never left, only waited, the self that speaks in symbols, silence, knowing, night, the self that whispered, even in your darkest hour, this isn't the end, this is your becoming. Amen.